Hi there. Well, we're still talking about loops in this video, and we're specifically going to talk about the for loop. Now, the for loop is just another control structure that allows you to create a loop or create a mechanism that repeats a block of statements. The for loop is a very versatile loop. It can be written in a number of different ways in Python, and for that reason I believe that the best way to learn about the for loop is to just look at several different examples, studying what each one does. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Now, I have on the screen, I'm running the Python shell, running the interpreter here in an interactive mode, and we can just type in some for loops here in the shell and execute them. And I've already typed a very simple for loop, so let's take a look at it. It says for x in, and then we have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 separated by commas, and this sequence of numbers is enclosed inside of a set of square brackets, and then we have a colon. And then on the next line we have just as you have in other control structures, we have an indented block. This one only has one statement, and that is a statement that prints the value of x. So the loop is going to iterate, it's going to repeat the execution of this print statement some number of times. Now, let's talk some more about this first line in the for statement. So x is the name of a variable, and this sequence of values that is enclosed inside the brackets, this is known as a list. Now, lists are very important in the Python programming language. You're going to run into lists a lot more as you continue to study the language. This might be the first time that you've encountered it, but just keep in mind that a list is simply a sequence of values that appear enclosed inside of a set of brackets, and they're separated by commas. That's really all that you need to know about them at this point. Now, when we execute this loop, the loop is going to iterate once for each value that is in the list. So this list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values. That means that the loop is going to execute 5 times. And each time that the loop executes, the variable x will be assigned one of the values from the list. The first time the loop executes, x will be assigned 1. The second time, x will be assigned 2. The third time, x will be assigned 3, and so forth. So let's just go ahead and run this. If I press the enter key, this for loop will execute, and there you see the output of this print statement. So it simply printed the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And once again, that's because the first time that the loop executed, x was 1, the second time x was 2, the third time x was 3, and so forth. Okay, well, let's look at another example for x in, and this time the list that I'm going to use is going to be just a list of some even numbers, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And once again, we will simply print the value of the variable x. And when the loop executes, we see the numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8 displayed. Now, what happened when this loop executed? Okay, well, we know the number of times that the for loop will execute is the same as the number of values in the list. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 values in the list, so we know the loop will execute 4 times. And the first time x is assigned 2, the second time it's assigned 4, the third time it's assigned 6, and the fourth time it's assigned 8. You can also use strings or values of other values. Let's look at another example for x in. I'll just type some names. Okay, and there's a set of names, and inside the loop I'm just going to print the value of X, and when the loop executes we see the names James, Chris, Jill, and Kathy. Okay, so the loop in this case executes 4 times because we have 4 items in the list, and the first time X is assigned the name James, and that's what we see printed. The second time it's assigned Chris, and that's what we see printed, and so forth. In Python, the for loop is commonly used in conjunction with the range function. The range function is part of the Python standard library, and it's a function that can generate a sequence of values that works like a list. Sometimes it's a lot more convenient to use the range function to generate a sequence of values than actually typing out all of the values in the list like you saw in the previous examples. Sometimes you might want to use a list that contains a large number of values, and quite often, rather than having to type all those values out, you can just use the range function to generate those values. So here we have a very simple example of the way the range function can be used. We're passing 5 as an argument. So in this example, the range function will return a sequence of values from 0 up to 5, up to but not including 5. So it will return the sequence of values 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when this loop executes, since there will be 5 values in the sequence, this loop will execute 5 times, and the variable X will be assigned the values 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in other words, this loop will work just like this loop. Well, let's try that out in the Python shell. Let's just go ahead and type a for loop that uses the range function, and I'll use the example that we just saw for X in range 5. And in this example, I'm just going to print the value of the variable X so we can see the values that it takes on while the loop is executing. Okay, so here you can see that the loop did indeed execute 5 times, and the variable X took on the values 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So one thing about this range function, it's very convenient to use in situations where you know that you need to iterate a specific number of times. For example, suppose we want to print the word hello 10 times. Well, we could say for X in range 10, and then we would print the word hello. And here we have the word hello printed 10 times. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can call the range function in order to get different behaviors from the function. For example, we've seen the range function used like this in the previous examples, and you know that this will give you the sequence 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, what if we want the sequence to start at some value other than 0? What if we want the sequence to start at 1? Well, we can call the range function like this, where we're passing 2 arguments, and the first argument is the starting value of the sequence, and the second argument is the upper limit. So in this example, the range function will give us the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. And to demonstrate that, I'm just going to print the value of X, and there we have it. So you'll notice that also when we wrote the function call this way, not only did we change the starting value in the sequence, but we also changed the number of items in the sequence. We only have 4 items in this sequence, so as a result the for loop iterated 4 times. There is also an optional third argument that you can pass to the range function, and that third argument specifies the step value. Now the step value is the amount of increase between the numbers in the sequence. Notice that normally the numbers increase by 1. Here in this example we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if we want a different amount of increase, then we can specify that as the step value. So let's look at an example for xn. And in this example, I'm going to specify 1 as the starting value. I'm going to specify 11 as the upper limit, and I'm going to specify 2 as the step value. And once again, what this means is that we want the sequence to begin at the value 1. 11 is the upper limit, so we're going to go up to but not including 11. And then there's going to be an amount of increase of 2 between the values in the sequence. So I'll just print x, and there we have it.